Welcome to the Crossbody Bag Patches, an asymmetrical crossbody bag. And in this tutorial, I will show you how I sewn this amazing crossbody. So before we start, I like to show you everything in detail. This is the side and the bottom. If you turn the bag around, you see the asymmetrical zipper pocket on the back panel of the crossbody bag. You can quite fit a few things in here. You can see how deep this pocket goes. It goes until here. On the sides, you find the D-ring tabs to attach your strap, and if you open up the flap, you see that the flap will close with a magnetic snap. On the interior, you do find a zipper pocket, and the top closure is with a zipper as well to keep all your belongings safe and secure so nothing can fall out. This is the top view. So before we can actually start sewing, we have a lot of preparations to do. The important thing that comes first is printing out the pattern. So please download the file. Do print it from Adobe Reader, not from the browser. Open up the file and go to your printer settings. Make sure you only print the pages that you need, so with the pattern pieces, and choose the right format. In my case, it's DIN A4 since I live in Europe. If you're from the US, you should choose US letter. Then, don't forget to print on actual size or 100%. And to ensure that the size of the pattern pieces are correct, you need to check the control boxes on the pages. I've used a fall leather for my base. The contrast fabric is a waterproof canvas, and my lining fabric is a lightweight cotton. And the interfacings I've used is a G700 for the lining fabric, and for the main body, for the main fabrics and the contrast fabrics, I use Decophyllite. I know many of you don't like this. This is H250 in Germany. Deco Bond 809. I only use them on a few pieces, but I like it for interior. So these are all the pieces that I've cut out and prepared. The back, the front, the flap, important. This is asymmetrical, so you do have to cut this mirrored. And please just draw on the wrong side of the fabric to prepare your pieces. This is the back zipper pocket. It's mirrored as well. The bottom piece, lining and main fabric, it's quite long, but it's one piece and I like it that way. This is the interior bottom with a zipper pocket. So no asymmetrical pieces in this case, but it does have a top. So you need two tops, one for each. And this is the contrast fabric strip where I like to include my main zipper in. Of course, you can also do two lining and two contrast, but I like it like that. And these are all the patches that I've prepared. And I will talk to you about the patches before we start, because you have to choose which method you would like. So I like the glue method. So we have the side seam. We will not glue them down. We only glue down the seam allowance like that. And the open edge will be included in the seam allowance later on, but we talk about this in detail right in a moment. We also need some hardware. So if you're making a strap, you would need two swivel clasps, some rivets, and a slider. And of course, we do need D-rings to attach the strap. I use a zipper end and these tiny little screws that can be a little bitch sometimes. We do need some zipper pulls for our zippers and a magnetic snap for our flap. This is a zipper, endless zipper, and we do need to cut out the strap as well. I did not show this in the pattern pieces, I'm sorry. This will be our D-ring tab. So it's double the width of the hardware you use. And now we will talk about patches. So the way I prepare my patches is I cut them with the seam allowance. So the pattern piece will be cut with seam allowance, and I draw on the wrong side of the fabric. Same for Deco-Fill Light. And then I make some small snips in the curvy section. Whoops. And I use a fabric glue stick, which is really handy, and apply the glue to the seam allowance, except for the side which says no glue, because this will be in our seam allowance. So refer to the pattern pieces which sides or which edges, that's the right word, which edges need to be glued down. So when you fold the fabric over, make sure that it's a nice, smooth and crisp look. And I don't want any corners or edges or folds to be visible from the front. So I take my time for it and I push down the seam allowance with my nails. Maybe you can see this. You can also use a tool for that. But I don't have a tool for that. So I just use my fingernails and I push it above the edge, secure it with clips and just let it dry a little bit. And then I take care of the other patches. So these are the front patches that I've prepared and I let them dry a little bit, and you can see this is mirrored. So this is the tricky thing about the bag, is everything's mirrored, or so you have to pay attention on how to cut out your fabric pieces. So this is another way of doing the patches. If you don't have any glue and you have some extra fabric of lining fabric, you could also cut out set from main and lining fabric. Just need to cut it mirrored. So this is the no glue edge, and this will be our open seam on where we will turn our patch inside out, right side out. So just sew the regular seam allowance and leave the no glue edge open, and then you would trim the seam allowance with pinking shears and just reduce it, and because of the curve it'll be nicer if you reduce it, and then turn the patch right side out and press it, and there you have a patch as well. But with this method you do need more lining fabric, so consider this when preparing all your pieces, okay? See, now your patch is ready if it's pressed, and you can stitch it onto the front or back or whatever patch you've just prepared. Another method would be a raw edge method. So therefore, leave the no glue edge, please, and trim off the seam allowance on the side that would be folded over in the other versions. So you cut this from faux leather, for example, or vinyl. Draw on the wrong side of the fabric with the pattern piece being up so you can read the writing on it. And then you just cut out your piece, and then you can place it on your front or back like that and top stitch. So now it's time to start with the front. As you can see, I've left the seam allowance on my patches since I will use glue to fold up the patches, and I've drawn my pattern pieces from the wrong side of the fabric, so it's like mirrored, and we have this no glue edge on this side right here, and I've shown you this in a patches section, but I'm gonna walk you through this again. But I will make this a lot quicker because we have a lot of patches to prepare. And this video will be endless if I show you every single patch in real time. So the first one will be a bit slower, but then I will make this a lot quicker. I use the fabric glue to glue down the seam allowance, except for the non-glue edge. And you have to refer to this in the from the pattern piece. So when I first started making the patches, it happened to me that I've glued down the wrong edge, and that's quite annoying because then you have to prepare another patch. So I'm gonna let you watch this because we've already talked about this. When all your patches for the front are prepared, you would have to sew them on top of your front piece. So you could also draw this on there and just refer to the pattern piece on where to place them. But if you align the side and the curve on the bottom, you can see like exactly where they go. You just align the edges. And now I've sewn them on. It's just like a basic top stitch. And I start with the side pieces and then center the patch in the middle, just the way that I like this to be. So you either refer to the placement from the pattern piece or you just put it on there and see how you like it. I take off some clips to make sure that it's centered nicely in between the other two patches, and then I will just stitch this patch very close to the edge on my front. So the front is almost done, but you can now insert the magnetic snap. From the pattern piece, you find a marking on where to place this. I decided to do this later because I will still have access to the piece when the bag is almost done. And I just want to make sure that the flap sits right. So now we will go and make the bag. So you have this gap here for the zipper. And again, we have two patches that will attach. Before I start gluing down the sides, I place it on there to make sure which edge is the non-glue side. Of course, you could also take your pattern piece and make sure which side you should not glue. This one is the one that you don't glue. And yeah, I do this exactly the same way that I've done the other patches from the front. Then I align it on my piece. Again, I can just perfectly align it to the curve on the side and see where this goes. Just make sure that it's enough space to the top where the zipper is gonna be. And then I'm gonna stitch it on my back bottom piece and repeat this with the other patch, which I align to the curve on the side bottom and stitch it on there as well. This is what it looks like from the back, and then I will center the facing on there and sew the rectangle. They are right sides together, and then we will make two cuts into the corner. Just go as close to the corner as you can, but do not hurt the seam. Do not cut into the seam. When you've made the cuts, fold everything to the back. See, I did not sew through the deco fill. I just sew the rectangle right next to the deco fill. I take some clips to secure everything. So if you have fabric that is pressable, which won't melt like vinyl, give it a press. It's easier if you pressed it and folded it, finger folded, but it's not staying in place like by itself just like that. So these clips can be helpful. Now we have to prepare the zipper. Again, this can be tricky because it's mirrored. So take the right interior piece, okay? See, if you have it right side up, the zipper should close to the top, okay? So take your endless zipper and insert the pull. This is 24 centimeters long, 8 inches long. So I thread my zipper pull to the zipper, and it closes to the top, and you take the lining piece, which will have the top on the left, not on the right, on the left. It goes up to the left, even though it looks wrong, because we will turn it like that and fold the fabric away from the zipper. If you can give it a press, but it's kind of hard if you have like a plastic zipper, it might melt. So I just finger press it and I center the zipper piece right underneath the gap that we've created in the step before. I secure this with clips to make sure it won't glide off, but basically I just stitch along the line right here so the zipper is attached to the back piece. So this is what it looks like when the top stitching is done. Just trim off any extra fabric, and then I will take the second piece and align it, but not to the bottom, to the top of the where the zipper is. And you can see you have an extra fabric on the bottom, and you can just trim that off. But first we will baste this together within the seam allowance. After the basting, you will trim the extra fabric strip from the back, and then you will sew the sides and the bottom together with 1 centimeter seam allowance, 3/8 inch seam allowance. And then you can cut off any extra zipper tape from the side and maybe secure this by melting it a little bit with using a lighter. The back is not completed yet. We still have to do the top for the back, but before that we have to do the flap because the flap is sewn into the top of the back. So again, we have to prepare the patches. Of course, you can all do them in bulk at the beginning before you start. I just don't have so many clips, so I just do them piece by piece. So here you can see me preparing the patches for the flap. So this patch does not have a no glue edge. It's round, so you'd have to glue down the whole edge. If you make this with lining fabric, you would have to leave an opening to turn the patch right side out. And the seam allowance will be closed. No, not the seam allowance. The opening will be closed automatically when stitching it onto the flap. At this point, I ran out of clips, so I have attached the other two flaps first. And it's basically the same method. This one is easy because you can see the corner. You can align them and just stitch it on the front. Now I do have some more clips to continue the gluing down of the round patch with the where all the edges need to be glued down. So let me do that real quick, and then we will attach the other patch. And right here I will show you how to use the paper pattern piece for guidance on where to place the patch. So you would have to turn this around because it's mirrored. Why make it easy when you can make it complicated, right? But that's kind of the point when you have an asymmetrical design. So I made 2 snips where the lines are, and then transfer the markings where the patch will be placed, and then I know exactly where to put it, and then I can easily stitch it onto my flap. When attaching the round patch, this might be a little bit more tricky because you cannot really see this exactly where to put it. You can align it on top and just pull the paper away, but it's not really that safe or secure. So I like to do this just by visualizing on where I want this to be. It should be close to the other patches. But the tricky thing about this right here is don't put it too close to the bottom edge of the flap, because we do want to leave a little gap for top stitching the flap after sewing it together with the lining fabric. So make sure it's far away enough from the bottom edge, and then you can top stitch it. You could also use some double-sided tape to glue the patch in place before attaching it. That's helpful too. One of my testers did this, so yeah. Now it's time to attach the magnetic snap. So I transfer the marking onto my lining piece. You see the lining piece is right side up, and the pattern piece was right up as well. And then I just made the marking through a little hole I've poked. And then I will install the male part from the magnetic snap to the lining piece. But before that, I like to add some Decophyllite for security. Is that the right word? Can you say it like that? You know what I mean. It's just a thin fabric, so I like some Decophyll to make it stiffer. Yeah, and then to protect the other fabric piece from the prongs, from the metal, I like to fuse some more Decophyllite on top, so everything's nice and secure. Then you put the flap lining and main pieces right sides together and sew the side and the bottom edge with 1 centimeter 3/8 inch, and you leave the top open to turn the flap right side out. Before we turn it, we will trim the seam allowance with pinking shears, or if you don't have these kind of zigzag shears, pinking shears. In Germany we say Zickzack-Schere. Just a little German lesson here for you guys. You can also take like small scissors and make small snips into the seam allowance. So when the seam allowance is trimmed, turn your flap right side out. Form out all these little creases and bumps. You can also use a tool for that, or a chopstick like I usually do. And then press the flap if possible. Here my lining fabric is a cotton, so I can press it from the cotton side. And when it's all pressed, you can top stitch the flap really close to the seam allowance. So you see, when aligning the flap to the back top piece, you have this edge here where you can align it to. So you'll base your flap on the top piece, mark the centers. The asymmetrical does not make the marking of the center easy, but use your cutting mat. You see the bottom is straight, and there you see where the center is of your piece. And then you place this right sides together, the top and the bottom. And here, if you fold this up, you can see if this is aligning perfectly or not. So attach it and secure it with clips and make a small snip where the curve is. See, you can sew along here until you get to the snip, and then fold the piece, the corner down to align the edges just perfectly. So you will sew this with 1 centimeter seam allowance, and this is quite tricky, and this is the part where most of my testers had issues with. The seam allowance does not want to go up, but we want it to go up because of the zipper. So this is point number 1. That's why I put the seam allowance to 1 centimeter instead of 7 millimeter. And then I top stitch through the flap. So I know a lot of you guys made this from vinyl and it's hard to top stitch. If it's too hard and too thick to top stitch, just don't top stitch through the flap, okay? Just the top, but the seam allowance needs to be up. Now let's take care of the interior of our bag. We will need the interior bottom, the top, the zipper pocket lining pieces, and the main zipper panels. And we will start with the main zipper. So we have these 4 pieces. I've cut them from contrast fabric and I've used the H250 on them. And then I decide which pieces I want to be on top and which I want to be on the bottom. And then I will fold 1 centimeter, 3/8 inch of the edge of the short end away, over. I fold it over and I will make markings 1.5 centimeters, which is half an inch from the other short end, and I make sure they're both at the same point. Then I will take some endless zipper. In this case, it's 38 centimeters long, 15 inches long, and I will thread a zipper pull. This is just my method. I think it's easier like that. You don't have to thread the pull. You can do this without it, but I can see like if it's aligned nicely and even. So I will thread the zipper on it and open up the beginning, the start of the zipper, and fold this down on an angle, on a 90-degree angle, and secure this with some pins. And then before you secure this with stitches, make sure they are even and on the same height. Oh my god, my English is just, my tongue is in knots right now because, and my head is as well, because my English could be better, but I'm working on it, I promise. So I usually secure this with a few stitches too. In this case, I didn't. I don't know why. Maybe I was so focused on making the tutorial that I forgot. Anyways, I will put the slider out again, and I put this right sides together with the panel, and you will align the beginning from the zipper to the marking that you drew on there, 1.5 centimeters, half an inch from the short edge, and I will baste it together right here on both pieces, so they are right sides together, starting at the marked zipper, and I will baste it so that I catch the fold of the other short end as well, and just baste it there, secure it there. And then you take the 2 contrast fabric pieces that will be on the bottom, fold the edge as well, so the 2 pieces are the same, the bottom and the top, see? And then you will sew where the zipper starts. You'll sew up and the edge. I did not show this correct. I was confused for a moment. Let me show you this again. Place these 2 panels right sides together, fold the 1 centimeter edge, 3/8 inch as well, and then yeah, like that. So up right next to the start, and sew the zipper in with 7mm seam allowance, 1/4 inch, and trim the corner from before the zipper starts, so it's easier to turn your zipper panel right side out. So if you can, if this is from fabric that can be pressed, I suggest you to press this first. But if not, you would have to finger press it that everything stays in place. So it's easier to top stitch your panel. And when top stitching, we will top stitch a rectangle on the whole piece because we want the open edges to stay together as well. Just make sure that this is within seam allowance. So the panels are done. We put them aside and take care of the interior zipper pocket. So we've prepared the 1 zipper facing right here, and you would have to transfer the markings from the pattern piece. So in centimeters, it's 1 centimeter times 16 and 3/8 inch times 6 inch, and it's centered. If you do this in centimeters, you can just basically do this 2 centimeters from every edge. And right there, I made a mistake, as you can see, but never mind, it's on the inside of our bag. Nobody will see this. It's on the wrong side as well. So I just ignore it. So don't be confused by the top line that's right there. That was my mistake. And then I also mark the center line and draw 2 small V's in the corners. I mark the middle, the center for my piece, and the bottom, interior bottom as well. And I place this 2 centimeters from the top edge, which is 3/4 an inch, all centered. I sew the rectangle that I drawn, not the wrong line that I've drawn. I sew the rectangle, and then I will cut down the center line with my rotary cutter and take some small scissors to also cut this into the corners when I refer to the small V's that I've drawn on my facing. Important, you have to go really close to the edge for a smooth, nice finish, but you cannot cut into the seam. So don't hurt the seam when cutting close to the corners. Then you would have to push the facing through the hole, form out everything nicely and give it a press. And this is what I'm gonna do because this is cotton. I can just press it and it's so much easier because it stays in place. See, this is a nice finished look. And I set it aside and take care of the zipper. So I take the 2 lining pieces and a 20 centimeter 8-inch long zipper. I thread my pull on my zipper and I will sew this on my zipper pocket piece, both being right side up. So the lining fabric is right side up and the zipper is right side up as well. And then I repeat this with the other lining piece, 7 millimeters, 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I will fold the fabric away from the zipper. I just finger press this because I don't want to damage my zipper since it's a plastic zipper. So the zipper is closing towards the left. If you want all zippers to close the same way, you should pay attention here. Zipper is closing to the left. I put my window that we've created on the bottom piece on top, and I will align the sides from the facing and the side from the interior pocket and just stitch a rectangle around the zipper, securing everything, sewing everything together by stitching a rectangle around the window and the zipper that we just put there. Then you will fold down the top lining piece and trim off any extra fabric from the bottom. Then you can sew this together, but we need to leave a small opening in the bottom. And you might wonder why, but I like to do 2 openings, so trust the process, try this, and then later on decide if you like this or not. But almost everybody that I've met, since they do this method, they all make 2 openings to turning the bag right side out. So the bottom piece with the interior zipper pocket is now finished. Don't forget to mark the centers. Mark the center on the second interior bottom piece as well. See, the zipper is closing towards the left, so we need to take the panel which is closing towards the left as well because we want all our zippers to close into the same direction. And then you will baste the panel on there. So basting is within seam allowance, and you'll repeat this with the second interior bottom piece too. Mark the center on your panel, and baste the panel on the bottom being right side up. Everything's right side up. Paste it on there, centered within seam allowance. And now we can attach the top, the interior top. So you have to mark the center as well on the bottom and top on both pieces, then decide which top should be connected with which bottom. That's just a visual thing, what I like more. I like it the other way more. Then I will put this right sides together. And I will sew this with 1 centimeter seam allowance, 3 8-inch seam allowance. On both pieces, we will sew the top edge and then fold the top up and top stitch on the top piece on both pieces. Next, we have to attach the bottom from our interior fabric. So mark the centers on the bottom on both sides and align the center markings, the bottom center markings from the interior and the interior bottom. I suggest you to pin the zipper tail together because we don't want to sew this in our side of the interior, and like this is just a bit more secure. So when the bottom is secured, I work my way from the top towards the center. I make small snips in the curved section, but the snips needs to be small and within seam allowance because we want them to be hidden in our seam so we don't see any holes in the bottom. And then repeat. I connect the top and work my way to the center. Make snips in the curvy section of the bottom piece. And then I will sew this with 1 centimeter seam allowance, 3/8" seam allowance. Right afterwards, you'll connect the other interior piece exactly the same way, but this time we will leave a big opening in the bottom seam because this will be the opening which we use for birthing our bag, for turning it right side out. But we'll get to this point in a moment. So I've made this a bit quicker because you know how that works. It's the same way that we've attached the other piece, but this time we will leave a large opening. So I suggest you to start the opening right where the curved parts curved. Oh my god, I'm sorry, my English. Where the curves are finished. So right here, I will leave my opening. From here to here. This is what it looks like. See, this is a big opening. It's a lot easier to turn your bag later on. And we have the second opening in the interior zipper pocket. Turn your interior right side out and set it aside. Now it's time to assemble the main body of the bag, and it's done in the same way that we've assembled our interior. We mark the center on our bottom piece, main bottom piece, but before we assemble it, don't forget the D-rings, because this happens to me quite a lot, to be honest. But don't forget it this time, okay? So you take the D-ring tab, you mark the center line, and you fold the raw edges towards this center line. Secure it with a few clips and then just top stitch the edges along the top stitch along this edge on both sides. And I'm so sorry that I did not record this. You will split the tab into 2 pieces, thread a D-ring on each piece, and then baste it centered on the short end of the bottom piece. I'm so sorry, I don't know what happened. You can see my cell phone just laying there around because I did something wrong while recording. It's totally my mistake. But I do hope you know that the D-ring tab is just 1 piece. We will just split it in half after the top stitching of the short ends. You just divide it and then you have 2 tabs. So please forgive me. Okay, now the bottom piece will be attached to the back of our bag. The same way, you make snips in the curvy section, and then you will sew this with 1 centimeter seam allowance, 3/8", and make sure that the zipper pocket is not in the way. So do not sew through, but it should be short enough not to happen. But I'm just saying, when you sew this together with the correct seam allowance. Trim the seam allowance with pinking shears, especially if it's a bulky, heavy fabric, because it's just a nicer finish if the seam allowance is trimmed. And then we will attach the front to our bottom piece. I didn't attach the snap. I will do this later. So if you like to do this too, it's another thing we cannot forget. But if you've attached it already, no problem. You can use the marking. I prefer it that way. So attach the front to the bottom piece in the same manner. Make snips in the curvy section. Sew with 1 centimeter 3/8 inch seam allowance. But this time, of course, we don't need the opening to turn the back. It's in the lining piece, so no opening. And when you're done with sewing the two pieces together, trim the seam allowance as well with pinking shears, especially in the curvy section. It will give a cleaner, nicer finish later on. Now it's time to connect our exterior with our interior. So therefore you need to put the flap inside the bag so it's not in the way. And then you will take the interior piece, which is right side out, and the back is left side out. And you will put the interior into the main body and make sure that the back is connected to the side with the interior zipper. So the interior zipper is connected to the back of the bag. And then you will align the top markings, the center markings, and secure everything with clips until all the edges are secured. Make sure everything's aligned nicely and neat. The side seams, the center markings. Just work your way around the whole top, step by step, securing it. And then you can sew the top together with 1 centimeter seam allowance, 3/8 inch seam allowance. See, I've made a mistake here, so basting it first is a bit easier, and then you can sew a second round with the correct seam allowance. And then it's time to turn the back, which is my favorite part. Not the turning itself, but seeing the final result is just nice. So we will use the big opening to turn the back. And in a moment you will see why we left a second opening. If you don't know already, if you're familiar with my patterns, you do know this is how I usually do this. And I bet you are doing this as well. So turn it out and just make sure everything's just turned correctly and folded nicely. And then top stitch the top edge, just like that. Ta-da! Top stitched. I just check where I want my flap to sit, so I close the bag and make a marking on the point that I like and how I want the finished result to be. So I will take a marker and mark the point. And since we do have a big opening in the lining fabric, it's no problem. Just grab through the hole in the bottom, the big opening. Well, mark where you want the slits to be first. Then you grab through the hole, so you're not gonna cut through the interior fabric. Just cut through the main fabric. And then you can insert your magnetic snap. Install it just how the snap is installed. And also, if you can fuse some Deco-Fill-Lite on top to secure the lining fabric later on, because it's a metal prong, it might damage the fabric. This is faux leather, so I'm not going to press it. Instead, I'm just going to take a piece of duct tape and put it over the back of the magnetic snap. And just like that, you can see that you can also install the magnetic snap later on. Only the flap needs to be installed right away. Finally, we need to close our opening. Therefore, I grab through the hole in the interior zipper pocket and pull up the lining fabric so I have access to the big opening in the bottom. So I pull this through there and align the raw edges and close the opening with 1 centimeter seam allowance. So I just complete the seam that we left the gap in. And then you can see this is a nice finish on the inside. The visible bottom opening is closed, and then I put it back inside and then pull up the fabric, the lining fabric, the interior zipper fabric pocket, and fold the seam allowance towards the center, towards the inside. So you can do a blind stitch. I'm lazy, so I do this with my sewing machine and just stitch this opening, close it with my sewing machine, put it back, and this is not visible. So this is a nice way to finish a bag and to leave a big opening to turn the bag. It's easier like that. I don't want to squeeze it through the tiny opening. Finally, we have to thread our main zipper pull to the zipper, and my zipper is a little bit longer because it was like the rest of it. So I guess if you cut yours at the right length, it won't be that long, but you decide how long you want the zipper tail to be. So I like them short. I don't like them too long, but that's personal preference. I cut it at my desired length, and I melt the ends a tiny bit with a lighter, and then I will install the zipper end. So I show you how I install it. These tiny screws can be really mean sometimes, but if you have a small screwdriver, it's a lot easier. So I think I got this in a hardware store in the electronics department. So I fold the tape from the zipper underneath the metal. This is not metal, it's plastic. But you know what I mean. I don't know the English term for this, only the German word. And then you can also add some fray check or some glue if you like. Then you put the end above it, and I have this little pokey tool, and I will pull this up a little bit so it's all the way until the end of the zipper end. And then you will take the tiny screw, which I probably gonna drop like 1,000 times, but this time I just edit the video, to be honest. And then you take the tiny screwdriver and install it. Make sure that the screw is down correctly and not poking out. This is a nice finish like that, don't you think? And then just celebrate yourself because you've made an amazing bag just by yourself and you brought your ideas to life. And before I start with the outro, there's one thing we forgot. The strap, of course. So this strap was from another Patches crossbody because I did not record this with the other fall leather. So it's the same way to do it. So I hope you don't mind this being a different color. So when you've cut your strap, you mark down the center line and fold the raw edges towards this center line. You could also take double-sided tape. You fold both raw edges towards the center and then fold it together again, so you have 4 layers of fabric on top of each other. When you're done this, you will top stitch the long edges on both sides, and this will give like a nice crisp look. This is what the top stitch strap looks like. I trim off like the ugly fabric pieces from the beginning and end, and I will make some markings on where I put my rivets. So each rivet is 1.5 centimeters apart from each other. I leave one with a bigger gap and one with a smaller gap. So it's 2 rivets, gap, 2 rivets, and the same on the other end. Just make sure that they're even. It's 1.5 centimeters, and then a bigger gap, which is either 3 or 4 centimeters long. But you could also insert your hardware and then see where you want the holes to be, make markings, and then that's up to you. But I've made so many straps, so I just do this in my sleep, I guess. Then I take my, I make punch some holes on my markings, and first I will insert the slider. Why did I say glider? I will insert the slider on the center bar and secure it with 2 rivets. These rose gold rivets are so pretty. I just love rose gold, especially when it's with a minty or light blue color. I love this color combo. So it's easy to attach the rivets with the tool. I don't know if you hammer it through, but the press is just, it's so much easier and it's less noisy. And my neighbors are thankful that I don't hammer everything down anymore. So when you've installed the slider, you will take the other end, you thread on the swivel clasp and thread the end through the slider again, and then take the second swivel clasp and attach it to the end. See, through the slider again, above the fabric, above the strap. Take the second swivel clasp. I forgot to punch the holes. Don't forget to punch the holes. And then you can attach it in the same way using 2 rivets. I need a new punching tool because mine is not sharp enough. Attach the rivets and then your strap is done, meaning your bag is done. And I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial with me. I really hope you love your new patches, the Crossbody Bag Patches. It's a little twist to what I would usually do, but you could also do this without the patches if you just like the shape and the asymmetrical design. I hope you'll visit me on Patreon, check out my other patterns, and I hope we get to I hope we get to sew many more pretty bags together. Thank you so much.